When my 7-year-old son Jake tugged on my sweater one evening and whispered, "Mommy, Daddy's lying to you," I thought it was just a child's confusion, maybe a misunderstanding. Kids say things, don't they? They mix up stories. They get scared over nothing. So I smiled, kissed his forehead, and told him everything was fine. But he didn't smile back. His little face was serious. Too serious for a boy who still believed in Santa Claus and left cookies out for the tooth fairy. He looked up at me with those big brown eyes, the same eyes as his father, and said it again. Quieter this time. "Mommy, please. You have to listen." I should have listened right then. I should have sat down on the floor with him, held his hands, and asked him what he meant. But I didn't. I was too busy, too tired, too convinced that my husband, Aaron, would never lie to me. We'd been together for 10 years. Married for 8. We had a home, a family, a life I thought was solid. But children see things we don't. They notice the little cracks before they become big breaks. And Jake was trying to warn me. He was trying to save me from the truth I wasn't ready to see. By the time I finally understood what he meant, it was almost too late. My name is Rachel Bennett. I'm 34 years old, and I live in a suburb just outside of Chicago, Illinois. Our house is a small ranch-style home with blue siding and a white picket fence. It's the kind of place you see in magazines about family life. A swing set in the backyard, a vegetable garden by the garage, a mailbox shaped like a little red barn. Aaron and I met in college. He was studying business. I was studying early childhood education. We met at a coffee shop near campus. He spilled his latte on my textbook, apologized about 100 times, and offered to buy me dinner to make up for it. I said yes, and that was it. We were inseparable after that. He was charming, funny, the kind of guy who could make you laugh even when you were having the worst day. He wore flannel shirts and baseball caps. He loved old movies and fixing things around the house. When he proposed to me on a beach in Michigan, I cried happy tears. I thought I'd found my person. We got married in a small ceremony. Just family and close friends. My parents were there. His mom came too. His dad had passed away years before. Everyone said we were perfect together. And for a long time I believed them. Jake was born 2 years after we got married. He came into the world small and quiet, with a head full of dark hair and those serious brown eyes. Aaron cried when he held him for the first time. I'd never seen him cry before. He kissed Jake's tiny forehead and said, "I'm going to be the best dad in the world." And for a while he was. Aaron worked as a regional manager for a logistics company. It was a good job, stable. It paid the bills and gave us a comfortable life. I worked part-time at a preschool, teaching 3- and 4-year-olds their letters and numbers. I loved it. I loved coming home to Jake in the afternoons, baking cookies together, reading bedtime stories. Life was good, normal, safe. But about 6 months ago, things started to change. Small things at first. Aaron started working later. He'd text me saying he had a meeting or a deadline. He'd come home after Jake was already asleep. He'd eat dinner alone in front of the TV, scrolling through his phone. I didn't think much of it. Work gets busy. I understood that. I'd worked late plenty of times when the preschool had events or parent conferences. But then he started going out on weekends. He'd say he was meeting his friend, Kyle, to watch the game at a sports bar. Or that he needed to run to the hardware store. Or that he had to go into the office for a few hours. He'd kiss me on the cheek, ruffle Jake's hair and say, "I'll be back soon, buddy." But soon started turning into 3 hours. Then 4. Then the whole afternoon. I started noticing other things too. He changed his phone password. He kept his phone face down on the table. He started showering as soon as he got home, even if he'd only been gone an hour. He wore cologne more often. Nicer shirts. When I asked him about it, he'd laugh it off. "Just trying to look professional, Ratch. You know how it is." And I believed him. 'Cause I wanted to. Because doubting him felt like doubting everything we'd built together. But Jake noticed. Kids notice everything. He started asking questions. Why doesn't Daddy play with me anymore? Why does Daddy always leave? Why does Daddy smell different? I'd make excuses. Daddy's working hard so we can have nice things. Daddy's just tired, sweetheart. Daddy loves you very much. But Jake's questions didn't stop. And neither did the knot in my stomach that grew tighter every time Aaron walked out the door. It was a Saturday afternoon in early October when things started to unravel. The leaves outside were turning gold and red. The air smelled like cinnamon and apples. I was in the kitchen making pumpkin muffins with Jake. He was standing on a step stool, carefully pouring chocolate chips into the batter, his tongue sticking out in concentration. Aaron came downstairs wearing jeans and a gray sweater I hadn't seen before. He grabbed his keys from the counter. Heading out, I asked, trying to keep my voice light. "Yeah, Kyle wants to grab lunch and catch the Bears game," he said. Again. The word slipped out before I could stop it. Aaron paused, looked at me. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing. It's just, you've been going out a lot lately." "I'm allowed to see my friends, Rachel." "I know. I just thought maybe we could do something together today. The three of us. Go to the park. Maybe get ice cream." He sighed. "I already told Kyle I'd meet him. We can do something tomorrow." Before I could respond, Jake spoke up. His voice was small. "Daddy, can I come with you?" Aaron smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Not this time, buddy. It's just going to be boring grown-up stuff." "But you always say that," Jake said quietly. "Jake, don't argue with your father," I said gently, even though part of me agreed with him. Aaron kissed the top of Jake's head, then mine. "I'll be back in a few hours." And he left. Jake watched the door close. Then he looked up at me. "Mommy, I don't think Daddy's going to see Kyle." I stopped stirring the muffin batter. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" "I heard him on the phone yesterday. He was talking to someone. But it wasn't Kyle." "How do you know?" "Because he said a girl's name. He said, Emily." My heart skipped. Maybe Emily is someone from work. Jake shook his head. He was laughing. The way he used to laugh with you. I crouched down to his level, holding his small shoulders. "Jake, Daddy loves us. He wouldn't lie to us." But even as I said it, I wasn't sure I believed it anymore. That night, Aaron came home around 9. He smelled like perfume. Not his cologne. Something floral. Sweet. Wrong. "How was the game?" I asked, folding laundry on the couch. "Good. Bears lost, but it was close." "Who won?" He paused. Just for a second. "Packers." I nodded. But something felt off. The next morning, I checked the sports scores online. The Bears hadn't even played yesterday. They'd had a bye week. He'd lied. I didn't confront him right away. I didn't know how. Instead, I started paying closer attention. I noticed he'd smile at his phone when he thought I wasn't looking. I noticed he started doing laundry himself, which he'd never done before. I noticed he'd clear his call history every night. One evening, Jake came into the living room while Aaron was in the shower. He climbed onto the couch next to me. "Mommy, I need to tell you something." "What is it, baby?" He looked scared, like he was about to tell me something he wasn't supposed to know. "Last week, when you were at work, Daddy brought someone to the house." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" "A lady. She had yellow hair and she was wearing a red dress. They were in the living room. They were close. Like how you and Daddy used to be." I felt like I couldn't breathe. "Did Daddy know you saw?" Jake shook his head. "I was supposed to be napping. But I came downstairs to get water. I saw them through the door. Then I went back upstairs." Tears burned my eyes. I pulled Jake close, holding him tight. "You didn't do anything wrong, sweetheart. Thank you for telling me. Are you mad at Daddy?" I didn't know how to answer that. I was devastated, heartbroken, but also furious and confused. How long had this been going on? Who was this woman? And how could he bring her into our home? The home where our son lived? "I'm not mad at you," I whispered. "I promise." That night, after Jake was asleep, I couldn't stop thinking. I lay in bed next to Aaron, listening to him breathe, and I felt like I was sleeping next to a stranger. The next day, I called my best friend, Sarah. We met for coffee at a little cafe downtown. She'd been my friend since high school. She knew me better than anyone. I told her everything. About Aaron's late nights, his lies, the perfume, what Jake had seen. Sarah reached across the table and held my hand. "Rachel, you need to know for sure. You need proof." "How?" Check his phone, his car, something. You deserve to know the truth. I didn't want to be that person. The person who snoops, who doesn't trust. But I also couldn't keep living in denial. So I waited, and I watched, and I planned. 2 days later, Aaron said he had to work late again. He kissed me goodbye and left around 6:30. Jake was already in his pajamas watching cartoons. I waited an hour. Then I drove to Aaron's office. His car wasn't there. I called his office number. No answer. I sat in my car in the parking lot, hands shaking, heart pounding. And I did something I'd never done before. I opened the tracking app on my phone, the one we'd set up years ago for emergencies. The one I'd forgotten was even there. I pulled up Aaron's location. He wasn't at the office. He was at an apartment complex across town. A place I'd never been. A place he had no reason to be. And that's when I knew. Jake had been right all along. I sat in that parking lot for 20 minutes, staring at the little blue on my phone screen. It wasn't moving. Aaron was inside that apartment. And he'd been there for over an hour. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. Part of me wanted to drive home. Pretend I never saw it. Go back to the life where I didn't know the truth. But the other part, the part that was tired of excuses and lies and perfume that wasn't mine, that part started the car. I drove across town. The streets were dark. Streetlights glowed orange. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. When I pulled into the apartment complex, I saw his car immediately. The silver sedan with the dent on the bumper from when he'd backed into a mailbox last winter. It was parked near Building C. I got out. The air was cold. I pulled my cardigan tighter around me and walked toward the building. I didn't have a plan. I didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew I needed to see it with my own eyes. I found the entrance to Building C. The door was propped open with a brick. I walked inside. The hallway smelled like old carpet and someone's cooking. There was a row of mailboxes on the wall. I checked the names looking for anything familiar. And then I saw it. Apartment 2B. The name on the mailbox. Emily Parker. Emily. The name Jake had heard on the phone. I stood outside apartment 2B. The door was white. There was a welcome mat that said Home Sweet Home. I could hear voices inside. Laughter. Aaron's laughter. I raised my hand, and I knocked. The voices stopped. Footsteps. The door opened, and there he was. Aaron. My husband. Standing in the doorway wearing the same gray sweater from earlier. His face went pale when he saw me. Rachel, he said. His voice cracked. Who is it? A woman's voice called from inside. I didn't wait for him to answer. I pushed past him into the apartment. She was standing in the living room, blonde hair pulled into a ponytail, wearing jeans and a soft pink sweater. She was pretty, younger than me, maybe late 20s, and she looked just as shocked as Aaron. Who are you? She asked. I'm his wife, I said. My voice was calm, too calm, like I was watching myself from somewhere far away. Her face went white. She looked at Aaron. You said you were divorced. Those words hit me like a slap. You told her we were divorced? I said, turning to Aaron. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Rachel, let me explain. Explain. My voice was louder now. You told her we were divorced? We live in the same house, Aaron. We sleep in the same bed. We have a son. Emily took a step back, her hand over her mouth. Oh my God. You have a kid. Aaron ran his hands through his hair. He looked trapped, desperate. Emily, I was going to tell you. When? Emily's voice was sharp now, angry. When were you going to tell me you're still married? That you have a child? This isn't how I wanted you to find out, Aaron said, looking between us. I laughed. It was a bitter, broken sound. How did you want me to find out, Aaron? Or were you just planning to keep lying forever? I didn't mean for this to happen, he said quietly. I didn't plan this. How long? I asked. My voice was shaking now. How long has this been going on? He didn't answer. How long? I said again louder. For months, he whispered. For months. For months of lies. For months of him coming home and kissing me goodnight. For months of him tucking Jake into bed and reading him stories. For months of living a double life. Emily was crying now. You told me you were separated. You said you were filing for divorce. You said. He lied, I said, cutting her off. He lied to both of us. She looked at me, tears streaming down her face. And I realized something. She wasn't the villain here. She'd been lied to just like me. She thought she was dating a single man. She had no idea she was the other woman. I'm sorry, she said to me, her voice breaking. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. I nodded. I believed her. I turned back to Aaron. He was standing there, looking at the floor, hands in his pockets. The man I'd loved for 10 years. The man I'd built a life with. The father of my child. Jake knew, I said softly. Our 7-year-old son knew you were lying before I did. He tried to warn me. And I didn't believe him. I chose you over my own son's instincts. Aaron's face crumpled. Rachel. He saw her, I continued. You brought her to our house. The house where our son lives. Where I live. And he saw you with her. I never meant to hurt him, Aaron said, and now there were tears in his eyes too. But you did, I said. You hurt him. You hurt me. You hurt her. I gestured to Emily, who was sitting on the couch now, head in her hands. I took a deep breath. My whole body felt numb. Cold. I'm going home now, I said. To our son. The son who's been more honest with me than you have in 4 months. And when I get there, I'm going to pack your things. I want you out of the house by tomorrow night. Rachel, please. Can we just talk? Talk. I looked him in the eyes. You had 4 months to talk to me, Aaron. You chose not to. You chose this instead. I walked to the door. My legs felt like they might give out, but I kept moving. Rachel, wait. I turned back one last time. Jake was right about you. I should have listened to him. And I left. I walked down the hallway, down the stairs, out into the cold night air. I got into my car and sat there for a moment, gripping the steering wheel. And then I cried. Not the quiet tears I'd been holding back for months. Real ugly chest-heaving sobs. I cried for the marriage that was over. I cried for the man I thought I knew. I cried for my son who tried to protect me. But underneath the grief there was something else. Relief. Because the truth, as painful as it was finally out. And I didn't have to pretend anymore. I drove home. The house was dark except for the porch light. Sarah's car was in the driveway. I'd asked her to watch Jake while I went looking for Aaron. I walked inside. Sarah was on the couch reading a magazine. She looked up when she saw my face. Oh, Rachel, she said, standing up. I fell into her arms and cried again. He was with her, I said between sobs. For 4 months. He told her we were divorced. He's been lying to both of us. Sarah held me tight. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. After a few minutes, I pulled away and wiped my face. Where's Jake? Asleep. He went down about an hour ago. I walked upstairs quietly and pushed open Jake's door. He was curled up under his dinosaur blanket, his stuffed bear tucked under his arm. His face was peaceful, innocent. I sat on the edge of his bed and brushed the hair from his forehead. I'm sorry I didn't listen to you, baby, I whispered. But I'm listening now, and I'm going to make this right. I promise. He stirred a little but didn't wake up. I kissed his forehead and left the room, closing the door softly behind me. Aaron came home around midnight. I heard his car pull into the driveway. The engine cut off. The door opened and closed. His footsteps on the porch. The key turning in the lock. I was sitting at the kitchen table, a cup of cold tea in front of me. I'd been sitting there for over an hour just thinking, processing, trying to figure out how we'd gotten here. He walked in slowly. His eyes were red. His shoulders slumped. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in one night. Rachel, he said softly. Don't, I said, holding up my hand. Just don't. He sat down across from me. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The kitchen clock ticked loudly on the wall. The refrigerator hummed. I'm sorry, he finally said. I know that doesn't mean much right now, but I am. I'm so sorry. I looked at him, really looked at him. And I realized I didn't recognize the man sitting across from me. Or maybe I was finally seeing him clearly for the first time. Why? I asked. That's all I want to know. Why? He rubbed his face with both hands. I don't know. Felt stuck. Like my life was on autopilot. Work, home. The same routine every day. And then I met Emily at a conference and she made me feel different, younger, exciting. So you threw away 10 years for excitement? My voice was bitter. No. I don't know. Started as just talking, then coffee, then more. And before I knew it, I was in too deep. I couldn't figure out how to stop without losing everything. So you just kept lying? Yes. He looked down at his hands. I kept lying. To you. To her. To myself. I convinced myself I could manage both lives. That I could keep everyone happy. And Jake? I asked. What about him? He knew Erin. He saw you with her. He tried to warn me, and I didn't believe him because I trusted you. Erin's face crumpled. A tear rolled down his cheek. I never wanted him to see that. I never wanted to hurt him. But you did. You brought her into his home. His safe place. You made him keep a secret he should never have had to keep. I know. God, Rachel, I know. I hate myself for it. I took a deep breath. I want you to leave. Tonight. Pack a bag and go stay with Kyle or your mom or wherever. But I need you out of this house. Can we at least try to work through this? He asked, his voice desperate. Marriage counseling? Something. I shook my head. I can't trust you, Erin. And without trust, we have nothing. You didn't just have an affair. You lied every single day for 4 months. You looked me in the eyes and lied. You lied to our son. You lied to that woman. I don't even know who you are anymore. He was crying now. Really crying. Please, Rachel. I love you. I love Jake. I don't want to lose my family. You should have thought about that before you started sleeping with someone else. The words hung in the air between us. Cold. Final. He stood up slowly. I'll go pack. I watched him walk upstairs. Heard him moving around in the bedroom. The sound of drawers opening and closing. A suitcase zipper. 20 minutes later, he came back down with a duffel bag over his shoulder. I'll come by tomorrow to get more of my things, he said. When Jake's at school. I don't want to upset him. Too late for that. He winced. I'm going to fix this, Rachel. Somehow. I'm going to make this right. You can't fix this, Erin. You can only move forward. And so will we. He nodded, tears still streaming down his face. Tell Jake I love him. Please. You can tell him yourself. But you're going to have to explain why Daddy doesn't live here anymore. And you're going to have to be honest with him. For once. He nodded again. And then he left. I heard his car start. Heard him drive away. And then the house was silent. I sat at the kitchen table for a long time after that. Just breathing. Just existing. Trying to figure out what came next. The next morning, Jake came downstairs in his pajamas, rubbing his eyes. Where's Daddy? I'd been dreading this question all night. I sat down on the couch and patted the spot next to me. Jake climbed up, still holding his stuffed bear. Daddy's staying somewhere else for a while, I said gently. Why? Because grown-ups sometimes have problems they need to work on. And Daddy and I need some time apart. Jake looked at me with those serious brown eyes. Is it because of the lady? My heart broke a little more. Yes, sweetheart. It is. Are you and Daddy getting divorced? I hadn't expected him to know that word. But kids hear things. They understand more than we think. I don't know yet, I said honestly. Maybe. But what I do know is that you are loved. So loved. By me. And by Daddy. And none of this is your fault. Do you understand that? He nodded, but his eyes were shiny with tears. I tried to tell you, Mommy. I pulled him close, holding him tight. I know you did, baby. And you were so brave. I'm sorry I didn't listen sooner. But I'm listening now. And I'm going to take care of you. We're going to be okay. Promise. I promise. He buried his face in my shoulder and cried. And I cried with him. We sat there on the couch for a long time, holding each other, grieving the family we used to be. Over the next few weeks, life became a new kind of normal. Aaron moved into an apartment across town. We worked out a temporary arrangement where he'd pick Jake up on Wednesdays after school and have him every other weekend. The first time Jake left with him, I watched from the window as they drove away. My heart ached. But I also felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. I filed for divorce a month later. Aaron didn't fight it. He signed the papers quietly. He apologized again. Said he'd always regret what he did. I told him I believed him. But it didn't change anything. Emily reached out to me once, a few weeks after everything happened. She sent me a message on Facebook. She said she was sorry. That she'd ended things with Aaron the night I showed up. That she felt terrible for her part in it, even though she hadn't known. I thanked her for the message. I told her I didn't blame her. And I meant it. She was a victim of his lies just like I was. Jake struggled at first. He had nightmares. He'd ask when Daddy was coming home. He'd get quiet sometimes, lost in his own little world. I took him to see a child therapist, a kind woman named Dr. Martinez who specialized in helping kids through divorce. Slowly, Jake started to smile again, started to laugh again, started to feel safe again. I started seeing a therapist too. I needed to talk through the betrayal, the anger, the grief. I needed to figure out who I was without Aaron, who Rachel was, not Aaron's wife. I went back to work full-time at the preschool. I reconnected with old friends. I took Jake to the park on Saturdays. We started new traditions. Friday movie nights. Sunday morning pancakes. Bedtime stories that lasted a little longer. Sarah was there through all of it, bringing me coffee on hard days, making me laugh when I wanted to cry, reminding me I was stronger than I thought. 6 months after Aaron left, I was cleaning out the garage and found an old photo album. Pictures of our wedding, our honeymoon, Jake as a baby, all of us together smiling. I sat on the garage floor and looked through it, and I felt sad. But not bitter, not angry, just sad. For what we'd had, for what we'd lost, for the family that could have been. But I also felt grateful. Grateful that I'd found out when I did. Grateful that I had Jake. Grateful that I had the strength to walk away. I closed the album and put it in a box labeled Memories. Not to forget, but to move forward. It's been a year and a half now since that night I drove across town and knocked on apartment 2B. A year and a half since my world fell apart and I had to put it back together piece by piece. The divorce is final. Aaron and I are civil now. Polite. We co-parent Jake the best we can. He picks him up on time. He pays his child support. He shows up to Jake's soccer games and school events. We don't sit together, but we're both there. For Jake. Aaron's not with Emily anymore. I heard through mutual friends that he tried to make it work with her after everything came out, but she couldn't trust him either. I can't say I blame her. Trust once broken is hard to repair. Sometimes impossible. Jake is 8 now. He's taller. His voice is changing, getting a little deeper. He still has those serious brown eyes, but they smile more often now. He's doing well in school. He has friends. He laughs at silly jokes and still leaves cookies out for Santa. Even though I suspect he's starting to figure out the truth. He asks fewer questions about the divorce now. He's accepted that this is our life. Mommy's house and Daddy's house. 2 bedrooms. 2 sets of toys. It's not what I wanted for him, but it's better than living in a home filled with lies. We've made our little blue house into a real home again. Just the 2 of us. We painted Jake's room his favorite color. Bright blue like the sky. We adopted a rescue dog. A golden retriever mix named Buddy. We planted tomatoes in the garden last spring. They actually grew. I'm different now too. Stronger, I think. I learned that I'm capable of more than I ever thought. I learned that I can pay the bills on my own, fix a leaky faucet, make decisions without asking someone else's opinion. I learned that being alone doesn't mean being lonely. I still have hard days. Days when I see a couple holding hands at the grocery store and feel that familiar ache. Days when I wonder what I could have done differently. Days when I'm just tired of doing everything on my own. But most days are good. Better than good, actually. Because they're honest. Real. There's no more pretending. No more wondering. No more late-night phone calls that Aaron has to take in another room. No more perfume that isn't mine. Jake and I have our routines now. Our traditions. Every Friday night, we make homemade pizza and watch a movie. Every Sunday morning, we make pancakes. He's learned how to flip them himself now, though they don't always land in the pan. Every night before bed, we read together. Sometimes it's a chapter book. Sometimes it's comic books. Sometimes we just talk about our day. Last week, Jake came home from Aaron's apartment and climbed onto the couch next to me. "Mommy," he said. "Yeah, baby. I'm glad you listened to me. About Daddy." I looked at him, this wise little boy who'd grown up too fast in some ways. "Me too, sweetheart. You were brave to tell me. And I'm sorry it took me so long to believe you." He shrugged. "It's okay. You believe me now." "Always," I said, pulling him close. "I'll always believe you now." He smiled and went back to watching his show. And I sat there holding my son, feeling grateful. Because he taught me something important. He taught me that sometimes the people who love us most can see the truth we're too scared to face. He taught me that children are wiser than we give them credit for. And he taught me that it's never too late to listen. If you're reading this or listening to this and you're going through something similar, if someone in your life is trying to tell you something you don't want to hear, I want you to know this. Listen. Even if it hurts. Even if it's scary. Even if it means your whole world might change. Because living in the truth, no matter how painful, is always better than living in a lie. I don't regret my years with Aaron. He gave me Jake. We had good times, real love before things fell apart. But I also don't regret leaving. I don't regret choosing myself and my son over a marriage that was built on deception. Sometimes love means holding on. And sometimes it means letting go. I'm still figuring out who I am now. Who Rachel is at 36, single, starting over. But I'm okay with not having all the answers. I'm okay with taking it one day at a time. Jake and I are building a new life. A different life. But it's ours. It's honest. It's real. And on the hard days when I wonder if I made the right choice, I look at Jake. I see him playing with Buddy in the backyard. I hear him laughing at something silly on TV. I watch him sleep peacefully in his bright blue room. And I know I made the right choice. Because he's happy. He's safe. He's loved. And so am I. The truth set us free. It hurt first. Broke things. But it also healed us. It gave us a chance to start over. To build something better. Something real. So if your child, your friend, your gut is trying to tell you something, listen. Don't wait as long as I did. Don't ignore the signs because you're scared of what you might find. Trust is precious. Truth is powerful. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is face what you've been running from. Life doesn't always turn out the way we plan. But that doesn't mean it can't still be beautiful. Jake and I are proof of that.